We have an incident of professionals in the cockpit and in the air traffic control who observed a UFO for 2 hours. It's one of the strongest cases in Europe and reminds me of the Edwards Air Force Base incident, just without the audio and other material evidence that was made public. Also, the timing of this case is only 2 hours before the WOW signal was registered, something I'll get back to later. At 1:40 a.m. on the 16th of August in 1977, the Fokker 227 from Pan Adria took off from Zagreb on a routine flight via Belgrade to Podgorica. Podgorica was then called Titograd. The plane was carrying 56 passengers and some goods and mail. After Zagreb, the plane flew over Sremska Mitrovica, which is in between Zagreb and Belgrade. And there it encountered a bright red UFO, which was so bright they couldn't see what was in it, the pilots, I mean. But the UFO flanked the plane all the way to their landing in Belgrade airport, which was then called SURČIN. Today it is called the Nikola Tesla airport. According to the pilots, the UFO stayed about 300 meters just hovering after they landed and was not moving at all in the sky. Dobroslav Džeba was the captain and Miljenko Batrulić the co-pilot, and Stanko Naletic was the flight mechanic. The first two went to the control tower after landing to see what they had to say, while Stanko took care of the plane and loaded the goods in and out of the plane. Inside the air tower there were both civilian and military personnel. Among them was Zlatko Verej, who was the chief of Yugoslav air traffic control. He had been urgently sent to the airport to evaluate the situation. Now this tells us the UFO was observed by many people, including the passengers, some from the civilian institutions, and from the military ranks. The radar erases objects that stand still after 5 turns, like mountains and other static objects that would clutter the radar screen. Apparently, since the UFO was standing still or just hovering above the airport, it vanished from radar but was still seen in the air, just as it had been seen when the plane had landed. So according to Zlatko Verej, they observed the UFO from the balcony, and it appeared like white and then sort of lingered in a static light cloud. This is something that, if you listen to the recordings from the Edwards Air Force Base, we see similar descriptions of the UFO. The military informed the pilots that they were ready to send up fighters if anything would happen. So the Pan Adria flight were told that they could be assured of their safety and would be escorted by 2 fighters to Podgorica. So shortly after, the 2 F-86s took off and passed the UFO, whereby radio communication between them and the air traffic control failed. The pilots then began their flight with the Pan Adria Fokker 227 to Podgorica. So the fighters took off first, and after that the Pan Adria flight went up. The UFO caught up with their speed and followed them on the left side. The ground control then ordered a routine left turn, but that caused a stir in the cockpit, since that would mean they would just fly straight into the UFO. By then, a spontaneous gathering in the cockpit had formed of personnel and passengers, and you have to remember this was in the 70s, so the cockpits weren't so locked up as they are today. And immediately After that, the ground control ordered a full 180-degree turnaround to avoid a fatal outcome. By then, the UFO sort of fled or disappeared, accelerating up to Mach 7, according to the radar control, and it headed north of this airport, SURČIN, which is now called Nikola Tesla Airport, to the military airport called Batajnica. At this point, 2 to 4 MiG-21s took off and caught up with the UFO, while the Pan Adria flight continued to Podgorica. The day after, there is one dead pilot, and neither the names or direct sources of the casualties from the MiG-21 chase were ever made public, but probably the eventual incidents that happened to the pilots took place near the Yugoslav-Hungary border. The military later said it was a weather balloon. Also on the day after, Dobroslav Jeba went to the air traffic control, where another personal shift met him, and he was told straight out that he should never speak of this again if he wished the well-being of his family to continue. The Serbian UFO agency, NLO Serbia, made an interesting point that they observed that the time of this Pan Adria incident happened really close to the time when the WOW signal was reported. So the WOW signal was recorded on the 15th of August at 11:16 p.m. at the Perkins Observatory in Delaware, Ohio. It was then called the Big Ear Observatory, but it was dismantled in 1998. So this is an interesting connection, since the Central European time would be 5:16 in the morning on the 16th of August, meaning that the Pan Adria incident occurred only 2 hours before the WOW signal. Further connections in this case are also could be also made with the report from a man who ran MADAR, which stands for Multiple Anomaly Detection and Automated Recording. He observed something on the same time as the WOW signal, and the name of this man is Fran Ridge. So he didn't connect any of this to anything else until 2010, when he got a mail saying to him, like, look, I've seen this, and it corresponds to the same time approximately to when the WOW signal was reported. So the link to those sources will be below this video, of course, and you can read a story by Fran Ridge. So in my blog post about this, a reader commented something I really missed, but it was very obvious, and that is that the latitude of the Ohio Observatory and Serbia, and if we look closer at like the Delaware area where the Big Ear Observatory was located, and if you draw a line, it's almost on the same place as these airports where this UFO observations were made. And that is an interesting connection because this is a very well documented UFO observation, and there was a documentary on Croatian television about this, and of course it's not translated, and I guess many researchers sort of have not been able to take part of this material, and I think it's one of the more interesting cases because it synchronates to these other events, very important events, unexplainable events. And it is also, as I said, very much like the Edwards Air Force Base incident, which I have a link below where you can read and listen to the audio or read the transcript. I think this is a very interesting case. If there are interesting cases, this is one of them. I think more people should look into this case and see if it, what's in there. And I think it deserves more attention. That's why I made this sort of spontaneous mini documentary about it, just to get the word out and get more people interested. And I still regard this as one of the strongest cases in Europe. So that's that. What do you think? If you have any more ideas, connections about this, please share them. And as always, take care and all the best.